Welcome to Be a Baller, where we're building a lifelong legacy for our families, communities, and the world. Your host, Coach Tim Brown, is excited for you to join him on this journey. On each episode, we'll be talking about how to be intentional about building a lasting legacy. We'll be exploring what it means to leave a mark that goes beyond just our lives, but has a positive impact on those around us and even generations to come. So, if you're looking for inspiration, guidance, and practical tips on how to build a lasting legacy that makes a difference, then you're in the right place. So grab your earbuds, get comfortable, and let's dive in. It's time to be a baller.
Welcome to another episode of Be a Baller podcast. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown. Today, we're excited to have on Vince Voice Bailey. So get ready to be inspired by the incredible journey of this baller. From being a kid who loved reading to becoming a renowned voiceover artist, entrepreneur, and MC extraordinaire, Vince has had an unforgettable ride. With his signature baritone voice and infectious energy, he's made countless of people feel good across industries from corporate events to sports, even in the world of professional dance. As you hear Vince's story, you'll hear about his passion for media that led him to start as a volunteer reader for the blind, only to discover a new calling in public access television. From there, he went on to become a local TV channel programmer, news anchor, radio host, and eventually founder of Convincing Productions, his own full-service video production company. Today, Vince is still making people feel good, hosting events, and sharing his voiceover expertise with aspiring artists. His mission is to make people feel good, has been a driving force behind his success, and we can't wait to explore more of his journey and insights on this episode. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Vince, the Voice Bailey, a true baller story. My man, how you doing?
Man, I feel real good right now, boy. You took me down memory lane there, and I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, we truly will go there. You know, guy like you grew up in Gary, Indiana. Can you talk about growing up in Gary during that time? Was that around the time of the Jackson 5? Were you hanging out with the J5?
You know, Michael was a little bit older than I.
Okay.
We definitely knew of them. I went to Catholic school. My parents had lived in the hood, but my daddy worked 3 jobs, and Mama worked at the hospital. So she sent all 4 of us boys to Catholic school. And but the beautiful thing, I mean, I love Gary, Indiana, man. I grew up. People that were in charge looked like me from day one. So I was born in 63. Mayor Hatcher came in 67, first black mayor of a major U.S. city. So the mayor, the doctors, the superintendent, folks look like me. And that was inspiring. I mean, it's kind of like the Obama effect. I think that was the biggest thing, that kids got to see someone that looked like us, looked like you, Coach, doing things. And that was inspirational, aspirational. It taught me that you can do whatever. And so Gary was a great place to grow up. I say we went to Catholic school, so I lived in the hood, but got bused, with Catholic school over to the other community. So I got the best of both worlds coming up.
Okay.
And it was a beautiful thing.
We talk a lot about, we don't hear enough of these stories about Black men, and particularly Black fathers.
Yes.
And the impact that they have, and they've always been in the lives of their children. Could you talk about, for instance, four boys? Can you talk about your dad and the impact that he had on you?
Well, it's, and I hope I don't shock you, but with these stories, but my dad was, again, 3 jobs. I can recall one time I was at the basketball court, and kids, you know how we did back then. You'd be called jiving on each other, shooting the dozens, what have you. And they was like, "Man, your daddy a garbage man." I said, "Man, you crazy." And next thing I know, I see my father coming down the street. But he had worked for the city of Gary. He worked at the Bud Company, and then he had his own thing going on. So he was just a jack of all trades, and raised us pretty. I mean, Mom had a Cadillac. We had the best looking house in the hood, I would say. But unfortunately, Coach, and I lost my dad at the age of 17 to suicide.
Mm.
And, even fast forward to there, I lost my oldest brother in 2006, the same. And one of the things that, I say their lives were not in vain.
Mm-hmm.
And it really served as fuel for me to, try to help others. And so, I know that's a tragic thing, but at the same time, like I said, it wasn't in vain. They lived through me. My brother, Tony, was one of the sharpest dressing, genius kind of guy. So still to this day, I love getting dressed up. I'll be getting dressed up later on today for an event. And but my dad was an inspiration, man, for work ethic and how to take care of your family. And that's what I really took away from him. Hmm.
Amen. With that baritone voice, or you were a singer back in the day? Did you MC the school events?
It's funny you say that. I didn't. I was a reader.
Okay.
Anybody but Vince come up and read. It got to that point, jumping
Mhm.
out of my seat. Who wants to read? And I'd be the one. And then in church as a
Right,
lector. And you
right.
mentioned talent shows. I was 13 years old. This is when the light bulb went off. I was 13 years old. One of those summer jobs where you're cutting down the weeds and all that kind of thing. And we had a program at the end of the summer talent show, and I
Mhm.
was selected to be the MC because I was a
Okay.
runny mouth kind of guy and
Sure.
kid. And there was a girl in the contest, the talent show that I liked, and she sang, Coach, and she messed up. And everybody started laughing at her, and she
Okay.
started crying. So I jumped on my white horse and jumped on stage, grabbed the microphone, and I was like, "You don't laugh at people when they make them."
Right
And
there.
everybody shut up, Coach. And I said,
Wow.
"Oh my God, there's power in this microphone."
Hmm.
And I
That's
never
it.
turned it loose after that.
Wow, that's a heck of a story. Heck of a
Yeah, man.
story. I know you got your start. What inspired you to start reading for the blind as a Volunteers United Way uh, radio reading service, and how did that experience shape your career?
Well, I was in class. I was in college for 2 weeks there at Indiana University Northwest, and the gentleman came into the classroom and says, "Hey, we're looking for volunteers to work with the Trade Winds radio reading service. They need readers for the blind." And so I volunteered, signed up, went down there, and the truth be told, never went back to school. I got on that microphone and started, it would be newspaper ads and magazines, things like that. It was on the dial, so the neighborhood, my mom could hear me. I was way at the far left end of the dial, but I was on the radio,
Right, right.
and I just found that fascinating. And then, as you mentioned, maybe a year into that, learned about public access television, and went down there, volunteered, learned how to work the equipment, and I did that for several years while I worked in the hospital. My mom was worked in administration at the hospital, so I was always working like my dad. But I learned how to work that equipment there at the public access television station, and the guys that were running it, the program director, they did some political ads or something. They got in trouble and got fired. And I can see Miss Bandy coming around the corner right now in slow motion. She said, "Who know how to work this equipment?"
All right now.
Me. I'm jumping. There I go again. And so I was 20 years old, man, running the television station from my hometown. And it was, whoa, quite an adventure. You get thrust into the local politics, and was able to highlight the local businesses and family and friends. And so the light bulb went off again, man. And what a jerk. And I still have the tapes. They're terrible, but I still got them.
Sound like you hit the ground running, from public access TV to radio stations, production companies, and
Yes.
even a professional ballroom dancing MC. There's a
Yeah.
particular topic that I want to talk to you about, a special project you worked on with HBCU schools, and
Yes.
particularly the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Can you talk about that project, what that meant to
Yes,
you?
yes. So I worked there in Gary for about 3.5 years, and I got married. And to be honest, we put it in a hat. My brother lived in Detroit, and her sister lived in Little Rock, Arkansas. And we put it in a hat, and we pulled up Little Rock. So it was like the Beverly Hillbillies. I remember coming across, I remember coming across that Mississippi River Bridge at midnight, saying, "What have you done?"
Right,
But
right.
I got there and started working in radio, and then I worked for the city of Little Rock. I was successful in radio. I did well, but the music had me conflicted. It was raising our boys to be good Christian young men, and daddy on the radio playing, this music, and so I stepped away from that for a minute. But I went to work for Comcast Cable, and then I went out on my own. And somewhere along that way, I interacted with a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Henry Golat. And Henry was working with the business department there at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and wanted to do some outreach. I was well known for working with nonprofits and
Okay.
organizations that help the community. And he talked to me and asked me about coming to do a infomercial on the business department at the university. And we did that, and it was very well received, so much so that the university asked me to come on board as what was it, marketing manager for the technical services department, where I was able to run the TV, radio, and at that time we had the best internet on earth. Again, thanks to brother Golat. This was in the late '90s, early 2000s. We had fiber and those Cisco phones and all that. We were the first, one of the first in the country. And I mean, it was the most, how could I explain it? Just fulfilling, but it was so
Mhm.
tiring. I would tell you, I did the morning show, get up, 4 o'clock every day, do the morning on the radio, then teach the students about TV in the afternoons. And we did the ball games. We traveled. It was an amazing experience. And then today, as we fast forward, some of the students that worked with us, their careers,
Right.
because I came in killing. First thing I did was kill the rap on the radio station.
All right now.
The kids did not like Mr. Bailey, coach. I tell you, they
Come
said it's
on
Mr.
now.
Bailey. It's crazy. But we killed that, went to a jazz format,
All
and
right
it
now.
became very popular. And worked with the students on content creation way before what we're talking about here today.
Right.
And some of the students, I stay in touch with them today. I mean, I've worked at ESPN, CNN, Wendy Williams show,
Wow.
on the radio, own production companies. And those were the ones that worked with us, without just wanting to be on air. So, we
Gotcha.
always started, first thing you're going to learn how to do is wrap cable so that you can get in somewhere,
Right,
how to
right,
wrap that
right,
cable up. And
right.
those that worked with us, hats off to them today. I mean, I'm so proud, and they stay in touch. And you know how that is, coach. When you hear back some feedback from something you were able to impart in someone, it makes you feel real good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You mentioned briefly about your faith. Can you talk about how your faith has impacted you and helped you doing your life journey?
Yeah, I was, Catholic, raised in Catholic school, altar boy, all that. Uh, but I think what really struck me was the part about, doing unto others as you
Mhm.
have them do unto you,
Yes.
charity, supporting, it's not politically correct now, but we would do things like, walk for the retarded. That's what we called it, and you raise money and you had rice bowls and things like that. And when you saw the impact that you could make on someone else's life, I know that could be nothing but God.
Right.
And despite me, I will share that, after losing my dad, there's some time in my life that I can't remember because it was just so devastating at the time.
Right.
But I knew, God talks to you.
Mhm.
Recently, but recently, like in the past 10 years, I'll say, I was
Mhm.
driving, coach, and, doing all these things, like you say, ballroom dance. And I was the PA for the Atlanta Dream, WNBA, NBA, boxing, all these things. And I was driving, and loud as a trumpet, he said to me, "It ain't about you."
Talk.
And I said, "What? Hold on, Don. I'm Vince the Voice. What are you
Right,
talking
right,
about? It ain't
right,
about
right.
me."
I'm the man.
Man, and once that sunk into me, coach, that freed me up so much just to
Mhm,
go forth. And
mhm,
I share that in class. I'm like, hey, my hair could be sticking up like alfalfa. Who cares? You're there
mhm.
for the message. You're there to
Oh,
make others feel good. You're there for the program. And that's the reason they call you back. And that's the reason they put your name
mhm.
on a piece of paper called a check. you know?
Come on, man. That's good word there. What advice would you give to young voiceover artists looking to break into the industry? And how do you think your blend of experience and personality has helped you stand out as a professional? Because
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of people out here doing this work.
Yes, a lot of people. It is a hugely competitive field.
Mhm.
You'd be surprised. But all I can say is that everywhere you go, you hear a voice. Guess what?
Yes.
Some voiceover artists did that, whether it's on your
Mhm.
cell phone, when you're hearing a
Mhm.
message at the
Mhm.
airport, even at the
Yeah.
gas station. We have
Yeah.
Kroger here. You take lift the pump, the thing up, and they'll say, "Hey, you want more octane in your tank?" Somebody's
Right.
talking to you. It's
Mhm.
used in every arena on earth:
Mhm.
education, healthcare,
Mhm.
transportation. We're talking right now.
Yeah.
And so, what I talk to my students about all the time is, first of all, mastering the network that you're in.
Mhm.
I can get students, maybe they worked in, again, I can picture a lady right now who worked in aviation there at the airport or transportation. And she's like, I've been there 25 years and I got to do something else. I said, well, wait a minute. That may be your first opportunity. As a matter of fact, I know it is because that's where I can't compete with you. I can't
Mhm.
beat you in your network, and you
Mhm.
can't beat me in mine. But
Mhm.
you can get started today if you go through your Rolodex again, with some training, with some direction and guidance. And I've been very pleased with results of my voiceover students. This political season just ended. Boy, political season is huge for voiceover artists.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
Coach Tim Brown is running for third district congressman, but Coach don't even live in the third district. He don't like puppies. he don't like puppies, and he makes babies cry. Vote for John. Hey, it's a job. But it is,
That's
it is,
funny.
it is, it is used everywhere. It is wide open. And
Yeah.
for those that want to pursue, and what really is so satisfying. In fact, yesterday I did a live. I like sometimes to go live when I'm doing some sessions here at the house, and I do voiceover for awards programs like the
Mhm.
Trumpet and the Stellar
Mhm.
Awards and Black Music Honors. Well, the King Center here has what they call the Beloved Awards for the community, the King
Mhm.
Center. And one of their honorees this year is Black Voters Matter, Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright, who are friends of
Okay.
mine and I've done
Mhm.
work for. And so they're one of the honorees. So I read the script, that is honoring them. And is like I say, it's nothing better than to be able to do that. Over the years, man, I've been able to provide voice on Freddie Jackson, Clarence Avon, Bobby Brown, and then to be in the audience and see their reactions after hearing it, man, I could go lay down somewhere. It's all right.
Mhm. You know, Vince, as someone who's worked in so many different areas of media, uh, going back to these young people, what do you think is the most important quality for success in any creative field? Because you've been in all these different spaces.
Hmm. Um, when I first got started in with public access TV, I'll say, when I first got started with public access TV, I was the young whippersnapper. I'm the
Mhm.
young kid. There were older men, who were running things and they were the stars. And to be honest, they did not treat me very nicely.
Okay.
I
Mm.
was that maybe got on their nerves, or I don't know what the deal was at the time. But I learned just to stay humble.
Hmm.
I fooled them. I said, "Look, I hold your cue card, sir. I just want to be on the set
Yeah,
and be
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Hang in there." And I mean, it lasted. That was like I say, 2.5, 3 years where I was a grunt, or just did whatever I needed to do to be in that space. And then that day happened when
Mm.
they were no longer in charge, and I'm only 20 years old. So for young people, I advise you to stick with it. If that is something that's really in your heart and your passion, to stick with it. I like to share a story. When I worked for the city of Little Rock, so when we moved, I ended up there at the city of Little Rock a little later on, running the government channel, and then I went out on my own. So I had a lot of inside knowledge, and one of the first contracts that I got was with the city. As I was saying, that's your inside. People cannot compete with you know, in your Rolodex. So they knew me very well. They hired me at that time. It was a welfare to work program that had just started. And so I did a 30-minute infomercial, some radio and TV commercials, and ran it on the television. As a result, 700 women in 1 month signed up for this program, coach. So much so, the people in charge said, "Stop running that stuff because we can't handle it, right now."
Right.
But I would be at the mall with my wife and my two little boys, and Keisha, Shamika, whoever would come up to me, "Mr. Bailey, I'm back in school. I got a car now. I got childcare." And I said, "Oh my gosh, media, man, can make a huge difference in people's lives."
Yes.
And so, hey, you couldn't stop me after that.
Yeah.
Uh, you couldn't stop me.
Rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, man. When you can use this platform as you're doing, sir, and I want to take my hat off to you and thank you and commend you, to make a difference in people's lives. Sometimes all it takes is a word to get a
Yes.
spark going, and then that spark turns into a fire, and there's no turning back.
Right. Yeah, as you mentioned that, my son TJ, he works in Indiana, but he has a saying. A guy gave him some great advice. He told him to be seen, young man. Let me tell you this: be seen but not heard.
Ah,
Be seen when you're young. Be seen working and not heard. And then he also has a motto. TJ says this: no jobs too big, no jobs too small. TJ Brown can do it all.
hey, I like that. That's still my mantra today. It don't
Yeah,
matter.
that's it.
Sometimes I say, that's my question all the time when somebody asks me. So I say, "What's your budget?" And then they tell me what their budget is, and sometimes that budget they say, "Well, I got $100 out. You got it in your pocket right now." So,
Yeah, no, that's right.
right now, all right, let's go ahead and go get this over with.
Yeah, yes. Speaking of that, about mentors, as you were growing up in the industry and the business, who were some mentors in your life?
Mentors. Good question. I know there are, they were there.
Yeah,
Um, I know they were there. Well, my older brother, Dominic, has always been in my corner. The one right above me, he's always supported me as I was, DJing, and even times probably when he shouldn't have supported me, big
right,
brother. But my brother was a big influence on me. I saw people that they in Gary at the time they had put their money together and bought a TV station in Chicago. As a gentleman by the name of Irons, Mr. Irons. He just a businessman who I greatly admired. Here in Atlanta, a gentleman by the name of Julius Hollis, his brother Michael Hollis. Founded Atlanta Airlines back in the day, man. I
wow,
mean, a
wow,
black man that started the airlines, and his brother is continuing the legacy. And he was someone who I, as an adult, looked to. Uh, I could say everyone could be
yeah,
considered a mentor to me. I'm like a
hmm,
sponge, I try to
right.
soak it in, take away a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and how it can be an asset in my journey as well.
You always try to share with men, and particularly men, that a lot of times working with young men or boys, a lot of things that they learn is not set down and taught to them; it's caught.
Yes.
By watching. And I know
Yes.
people like you watch people. I watch people. I watch older men. I watch their style, watch how they do things, how they react. And they didn't sit down and tell me, they Tim, this is how you're supposed to do it. But I caught it.
Yes.
And Lord, when you catch it, watch out.
Yes.
It's
Yes. Yes.
there. It ain't going nowhere. It's there.
And
It,
everybody's
it,
story
it's there.
is there. Everybody's story, is different and unique. But I like to tell and to embrace, those gifts and talents that you have. If you're so in another world here, I've worked in workforce development. First started there in Little Rock on the workforce board, and then when I got here in Georgia as well, one of the inspirations along that way was the Job Corps program there in Little Rock. I'm a huge fan of Job Corps,
Yes, yes.
and so there in Little Rock, I was on the board there and ended up doing some recruitment videos for the three centers that were based there in Georgia. And if you will, that was early on. I started really liking the program, and I called the gentleman who was the disciplinary guy at this center in Ouachita up in the mountains. And I
Mhm.
called him and I said, well, I talked to him. I said, man, I'd like to come back and talk to the students if that's possible. And you asked about faith. The next day after shooting, I was praying, coach, and he
Mhm.
told me, go back down there today. And I
Mhm.
said, what? And he said, go back down there today. So I called
Mhm.
Mr. Johnson. I remember his name. I called Mr. Johnson and I said, man, we talked yesterday and you said
Mhm.
it'd be okay to come back and talk to the kids. Is today a good day? He said, Vince, come back, man. We had special guests here today and everything.
Right.
Lo and behold, I drive up there. I do my little rah-rah speech to the students. There was this little man sitting in the back of the room. Turned out this man was the assistant director for the National Forest Service, coach.
Right.
This man said, Vince Bailey, we are celebrating 40 years of Job Corps next year, and I'm going to make sure we're going to sole source that video project to you.
Mhm.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And
Right.
that took me on a journey to like 12, 15 states, all up in Oregon, Utah. I worked with the Cherokee tribe there in Cherokee, North Carolina, made friends down there that still last today. And so, following that, you got to be obedient. Follow that voice, something, that's telling you and use your
Right.
gifts. And I
Yes.
was able to, have a life-changing experience through Job Corps and through workforce investment, workforce development.
Well, that's a great story. And people got to be ready.
Got to be
Right
ready.
now, right now, right now. You can't hesitate. You got to do it today, not tomorrow.
That's right. That's what he
Make it
says. They
happen
go back
today.
there today. I said,
Today.
good
Okay.
Lord.
That's God. As we kind of coming around the corner here, what does the word, this is a legacy podcast where we talk about building a lifelong legacy. When you think about that word legacy, what does that word mean to you?
Sometimes and my wife, she'll push on me about this, because I was having such a enjoyable time along the way in this work, and still I am today, that it wasn't for me about the finance. It wasn't about, trying to get rich. It was just trying to achieve and do some things. Well, now that I'm, in my early 61, money makes a difference.
Right, right.
However, my legacy that I like to say is that I was able to help, get the light bulb to go off for a lot of people along the way.
Mm,
I have two sons myself. My youngest is a doctor of mathematics.
mm,
My oldest is a project manager for a great company. He's in Arizona as we speak.
mm.
I wanted to make sure that they were going to be, good. So, private school, and forgive me, but when they come home with a B, I say B. That stands for belt.
Cool.
Bad. You had one job.
One job.
Yeah, one job, bro. So, but they did good, scholarships and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff, So, if legacy, if you ask anybody about, do you know Vince Bailey, and I want people to put a smile on their face when they think
mm,
about me, and that I was able to impart something in their lives. If you will, I have a podcast myself, Black Mental
mhm,
Matters. And I just got my 501c3, so I really want to do a lot more in that mental health, and not just so much clinical, but just how we as our people process things and how we deal with life. And so I'm excited about that. That's the next journey. We did 80 episodes prior to the uh, COVID, but coming out of this now, I think there's a lot that we can do to help people realize that they're not alone, that there are others who share the same struggles, same journey, same successes. And if we could just learn to share with each other as you do. I listened to your last with the police chief there. I really enjoyed that. I have a cousin that is a former commander for the Illinois State Troopers, so we talk about law enforcement a lot, and how it affects our communities and how important vetting of officers and things like that are. So, we need to discuss these things. It affects all of our lives, and the only way we're going to get that knowledge is if we talk about it and work together to make things better.
That's good stuff. Lastly, as we come around the corner, you have this mission about make people feel good. How did that come to you? What's the vision behind that?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to that girl on the stage back in the day, man. I mean, she loved me after that. But I really, so this is great recording, but I really love being on stage as an MC for events because that's immediate. And so who'd have thought? I'm 13 years now, professional ballroom dance. I mean, I'm talking Russians. I mean, can you say Oksana Zolotovskaya? And names like that. But one, they love hearing their name said properly. But then B, Susie, forgive me, may weigh 400 pounds, but she got that purple dress. And Susie, you are popping and looking great. And I love the way you did that cha-cha. Susie got a grin on her face from ear to ear. Or if it's an awards program for a company, if Charlie is the janitor, when it was cold outside, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie was here and he made sure the heat was on. Get up here, Charlie. You are number one. And Charlie's happy. Everybody, I mean, there's, again, you give me goosebumps, man, talking about it. It's just people, we deserve that. We deserve that. And I guess that's one of the purposes that I was put on this earth for. It has afforded me an opportunity to work with diverse groups, and I can't thank them enough.
Amen. Well, Vince, as we come to the end of today's episode on Be a Baller podcast, I want to thank you for being our special guest. And I want to thank you for sharing your heart and your experience in media. But most importantly, I thank you for answering the call. When you mentioned that 13-year-old coming up on that stage, and that's truly a blessing, a lifelong ministry. It's a ministry that God's given you to make people feel good. And so I want to thank you for answering that call. And then also I want to thank you for your commitment to empowering the next generation, and we can't keep all this to ourselves. We God called us to give it away. And I thank you for being willing to give that away and then sharing that so openly with the next generation. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Remember, building a lifelong legacy is not just about what we achieve in life, but also how we use our gifts and talents to make a positive impact on the world around us. And don't forget to subscribe and listen to Be a Baller podcast, as you can stay up to date with all our latest episodes. Our podcast guests are always willing to share wisdom and inspire others to build a legacy that lasts. So Vince the Voice Bailey, thank you for being a guest on Be a Baller podcast. I was trying to say it like you, but I just don't have that baritone down yet. I'm practicing. I'm getting there.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Be a Baller podcast with your host, Coach Timothy Brown.
Yes,
Give it
sir.
up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Thanks, Vince. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Be blessed.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with family and friends. The Be a Baller podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. This podcast was created by Coach Tim Brown and recorded and edited by the video production class of Worthington Christian High School. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller.